Angel Reese just joined the Atlanta Dream. And the Indiana Fever, the team that eliminated Atlanta with just 7.4 seconds left in the 2025 WNBA Playoffs, should be terrified. Because heading into the 2026 WNBA season, the Dream didn't just add a player, they built a super team. And they built it specifically to destroy Caitlin Clark's championship window. Let me take you back to that Game 3 moment, because that's where this revenge story starts. Aliyah Boston had just put Indiana ahead with a layup that had no business being that wide open. Brionna Jones went to the ground chasing a loose ball and left Boston completely alone under the rim. And then Lexie Hull, the player half the internet says doesn't belong on a championship roster, came from behind and ripped the inbound pass right out of Rhyne Howard's hands. Game over, series over, season over. The Indiana Fever, missing Caitlin Clark, missing Sophie Cunningham, missing 3 other key players, eliminated the third-seeded Atlanta Dream on their own floor. It was Indiana's first playoff series win since 2015, when Tamika Catchings was still wearing a Fever jersey. And Atlanta? They haven't won a playoff series since 2016. Almost a decade of postseason failure. That was September. This is April. And the Atlanta Dream just made sure it never happens again. The Chicago Sky traded Angel Reese, the 2-time WNBA All-Star, to Atlanta for 2 first-round draft picks, 2027 and 2028, plus second-round swap rights. And if you think this is just another trade, you're not paying attention to what Atlanta is building. Let me walk you through this roster, because the numbers are terrifying. Allisha Gray, the woman who dropped 19 points and 12 rebounds on the Fever in that Game 3 loss, just signed a 3-year deal worth more than the standard max. She finished 4th in MVP voting last season, averaged 18.4 points, 5.3 rebounds, 3.5 assists, shot 38% from 3 on over 6 attempts per game. That's not a good player. That's a franchise cornerstone, the highest MVP finish by a Dream player since 2014. Rhyne Howard, who's had the #1 overall pick in 2022, averaged 17.5 points and 4.6 assists. She and Gray give Atlanta one of the most dangerous backcourts in the league, and they were already dangerous enough to take Game 1 from the Fever by 12 points in the playoffs. Brionna Jones, the All-Star center who's been one of the most efficient post players in the WNBA for years, shooting 55% from the field for her career. She's back on a new deal. Naz Hillmon, the reigning 6th Woman of the Year, just signed a 3-year, $2.5 million contract to come off the bench. Off the bench. That's how deep this team is. She averaged 8.6 points and 6.2 rebounds as a reserve. Before I even get to the Reese numbers, I want you to pause and drop a comment right now. Just based on Gray, Howard, Jones, and Hillmon alone, is this already the best roster in the Eastern Conference? Or does Indiana still have the edge? Tell me. I'll be reading every single comment. And now, Angel Reese, 14.1 points per game, 12.9 rebounds per game. The only player in WNBA history to average 12 or more rebounds in back-to-back seasons. 49 career double-doubles in just 2 years. Led the league in rebounding twice. Led the Sky in scoring. Led the Sky in assists. In her first 2 seasons, Reese put up numbers that only one other active player can match for sheer dominance on the glass. And that player is 4-time MVP A'ja Wilson. This isn't a roster upgrade. This is a revenge build. Now here's where the new WNBA collective bargaining agreement makes this even scarier. Under the new CBA, the salary cap jumped from $1.5 million to $7 million. The Supermax sits at $1.4 million, and Atlanta is spending aggressively. Gray's Max Plus deal, Hillmon's $2.5 million contract, Jones re-signed, and Reese is still on her rookie scale deal, which means she's absurdly cheap relative to her production. Think about that for a second. Angel Reese, a 2-time All-Star who averages a double-double every single night, costs less than the WNBA's new minimum salary for veterans under the CBA. Atlanta essentially added a top 10 player in the league for the price of a role player. That's the kind of value that wins championships. It's like what the San Antonio Spurs did with Tim Duncan on his rookie deal back in '98. You build the empire while the superstar is still cheap. Meanwhile, in Indiana, the Fever just paid Kelsey Mitchell a $1.4 million supermax. 1 year, no long-term commitment. Sophie Cunningham is still unsigned. Lexie Hull's restricted qualifying offer is out there, but nothing's been finalized. Indiana Pacers owner Herb Simon, The man who controls both the Pacers and the Fever is pinching pennies while Atlanta is loading up. The Fever are trying to keep their core together. Atlanta is trying to bury them. And you can't talk about Angel Reese joining the Atlanta Dream without talking about the reason this trade matters beyond basketball. April 2, 2023, Dallas, Texas, the NCAA Women's Basketball National Championship. Angel Reese's LSU Tigers versus Caitlin Clark's Iowa Hawkeyes. LSU won 102-85. And what happened during and after that game launched the most talked-about rivalry in women's basketball history. Reese pointed at her ring finger. She waved her hand in front of her face, the "you can't see me" gesture, directed right at Clark. It was personal. It was polarizing. And it hasn't stopped being a storyline since. Now they're in the same conference. 4 head-to-head matchups scheduled for the 2026 WNBA season, including 2 games in 3 days in June. Every single one of those games is going to be must-see television. Every single one is going to trend nationally, and every single one is going to feel like a playoff game. Because for Atlanta, it basically is. The Dream lost to the Fever in the first round last year. They had the better record, 30 wins to Indiana's 24. They had home court advantage for Game 3. They had the deeper roster on paper, and they still lost in their own building by 2 points on a play where Brionna Jones fell down and left Aliyah Boston wide open. That loss is going to fuel everything Atlanta does this season. And Angel Reese, the one player in the WNBA who has never backed down from Caitlin Clark, not in college, not in the pros, not in the media, is now the centerpiece of that revenge mission. Let's talk about what Reese actually does to Atlanta's biggest weakness, because this trade wasn't random. In that playoff series, the Fever out-rebounded the Dream in Games 2 and 3. In Game 2, the 17-point blowout, Atlanta grabbed just 5 offensive rebounds. 5. For a team that led the WNBA in total rebound percentage during the regular season, that was embarrassing. Indiana's physicality on the glass, led by Boston and Hull and Natasha Howard, was the difference between going home and advancing. Angel Reese fixes that overnight. She's not just a rebounder, she's the best rebounder in WNBA history by per-game average over a multi-season stretch. Only A'ja Wilson matches her level of pure physical dominance in the paint, and Wilson averaged 10.2 boards last season compared to Reese's 12.6. Reese doesn't just clean up missed shots, she creates second and third chances that demoralize defenses. In Chicago's dysfunctional system, she was doing this on a 10-win team. Imagine what she does surrounded by Gray, Howard, and a coach who just broke the record for most wins in a debut season. Atlanta's problem was never talent. It was never coaching. Carl Smesko won 30 games in year 1. Their problem was that when the playoffs got physical, they got out-muscled. Angel Reese is the solution to that problem. The way Tamika Catchings once brought that same toughness to Indiana, that relentless motor on the boards, that refusal to be pushed around, that's what Reese brings to Atlanta. Except Reese is 23 years old and she's just getting started. So what does this mean for Caitlin Clark and the Fever? Last year, Indiana survived Atlanta without their best player. Clark was out with injury, Cunningham was out with a torn MCL, McDonald went down with a broken foot, Colson tore her ACL, Bibby hurt her knee. The Fever were running on fumes and heart, and they still found a way. Kelsey Mitchell dropped 24 points in the closeout game. Aliyah Boston had 14 and 12 with 6 assists. That Game 3 win, on the road, shorthanded, closing on a 7-0 run, might be the gutsiest victory in Fever history since the Catchings era. But you can't count on that kind of magic twice, especially not when the team you barely beat just added a 2-time All-Star, locked up their MVP candidate on a Max Plus deal, and signed the 6th Woman of the Year to a $2.5 million contract. The Fever's championship window depends on Clark being healthy, Mitchell staying locked in on her 1-year Supermax, Boston taking another leap, and Pacers owner Herb Simon figuring out how to fill the rest of the roster under the new CBA salary cap. That's a lot of ifs. Atlanta doesn't have ifs. Atlanta has a starting 5 of Gray, Howard, Reese, Jones, and their choice at point guard, with Hillmon coming off the bench. They have a coach who already proved he can win 30 games. They have a front office that just traded 2 future first-round picks because they're done building for someday. They're not planning for 2028. They're planning for right now. And right now, they're planning specifically to beat Indiana. The schedule says 4 games. The rivalry says war. Angel Reese didn't come to Atlanta to make the playoffs. She came to win a championship. And the road to that championship runs directly through Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. Last September, Lexie Hull stole an inbound pass and ended Atlanta's season in 7.4 seconds. This September, Angel Reese is going to try to make sure that never happens again. Here's what I want to know from you. And I want you to be honest in the comments. First question, does Atlanta's new roster scare you as a Fever fan? Or do you trust Indiana to handle them again? And second, who wins the rebounding battle this season? Angel Reese or Aliyah Boston? Drop your pick below.